Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. It's the France 24 debate. And 10 days before his first NATO summit, Donald Trump, in the eye of a storm in Washington, over a Washington Post article which alleges that he shared third-party classified information, third-party meaning from an allied nation, with in the Oval Office back on May 10th. Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, and the Russian ambassador. We're talking about it with retired General Dominique Trinquant, former head of the French military mission to the United Nations. Welcome back as well to Alex Whiting, former U.S. attorney who teaches at Harvard Law School, currently a visiting fellow at the American University of Paris. From the German Marshall Fund, Martin Cancé is with us, and Michael Pregent of the Hudson Institute, a former U.S. intelligence officer. Before the break, Alex, you were saying you're...
Yeah, so this story caused panic in the White House, in the intelligence community, in the Congress, among experts in national security overseas. And if I can tie the points together that the general made, I think the fear is that the carelessness and the amateur approach and the frankly, incompetence connects to the intelligence concerns, because the fear is that these compromises of intelligence relationships are going to be done carelessly. And Michael's content to wait until the president, quote unquote, messes up. But I think the concern in Washington and around the world, frankly, is that what we see about the president's behavior and his impulses and the way he runs his administration is that we should have a lot of concern about what's going to happen when there is a real national security crisis. These events with Comey, this last event...
I thought this was a real national security crisis.
Michael, these have been all self-inflicted things that they've created themselves. So these are self-inflicted injuries. But when we have a crisis, with North Korea, or a terrorist attack, or a natural disaster, or something that happens, do we have confidence that this president is going to be capable to handle that situation competently?
Martin Cancé, your thoughts on how that NATO summit is going to unfold?
Right. So I agree that the major problem now is the question of trust, and to be honest, this was a question from the get-go with the president, and the fact that some of the international press and some allies have been mentioning the fact that Trump may not be able to handle some secrets or some confidential information. But I would say that it goes both ways, actually, that the problem here is also Trump's confidence towards the press and towards what used to be called the deep state, or some of the Obama officials that are still now in the different cabinets. So the problem is not only one way. The problem is that the president might be also very suspicious and very concerned about the leaks that led to this report in the Washington Post, which will cause a lot of, let's say, energy lost in this kind of debate within Washington on why did that happen, who leaked this information, etc. So the problem of trust is central, but not only in terms of who trusts Trump, but also who will Trump trust.
And will it have an impact on the NATO summit?
Well, we will see how it unfolds in the coming days, but I believe that some of the allies have already made comments on the fact that it could have an impact on their summit.
It'll be the first meeting, first NATO summit as well for Emmanuel Macron as French president. Yeah. How does he handle? They're going to have a bilateral talk, I think a lunch, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't think they will discuss about this problem of trust. It's the first meeting, so it's very important for them to understand who they are, and certainly President Macron is very different from Mr. Trump. But what I can say, we're talking about trust. It's not only the trust of the allies with the US, it's also probably also the intelligence, the US intelligence community and the president. Probably they will give him less information if they've got less confidence in how he's handling this intelligence. And that's a real problem. If the US intelligence community saying, well, we don't say that to the president because he can mess up and do something wrong. So this is a real problem. So it's not only a problem with the Allied, but inside the US. And with the Allied, I come back to the experience we had in 2003. It's a real problem. Now then the intelligence community take a very long time to regain confidence in the UN in sharing the and receiving the intelligence.
But 2003 it was a long time ago, all right? So, and it's, you know...
No, you know, intelligence, it's a long, very long process. When you're sharing...
Several administrations have happened since.
No, I mean, be careful. The intelligence was providing by the intelligence community. The US, I mean, the Secretary of State is not inventing something. It was the intelligence community who providing that. And so, going back to that, for now many years, we are fighting the same enemy, ISIS. And we share, of course, with the Russian the fact that we are fighting the same enemy. But intelligence is something very sensitive, and you must be very careful about the way you are sharing that.
Michael Préjean?
Yes, sir. Well, I mean, we can go back to 2012, where the Obama administration leaked the details of an al-Qaeda plot to have an underwear bomber on commercial airlines. I mean, there's a lot of things you can look at where intel was misused. Again, we talk about confidence in Trump and trust in Trump. Well, Mattis and McMaster have found out what kind of commander-in-chief they have. They've been happy with what he did in Syria with the cruise missile strikes. They were happy with what he allowed to happen in Afghanistan with the Moab. There are still criticisms of Trump's policies in Syria when it comes to Russian and Iranian safe zones, which I'm against.
And those reports, like the one in Foreign Policy, that say that for Trump, the briefings at the NATO summit have to be simplified so that, because he has a short attention span?
He's an executive. When I brief a general, I have 2 bullet points I can tell him before they tune me out. Any intelligence officer knows that you're going to lose the attention of an executive. You have to get your salient points in fast. Again, what H.R. McMaster said, the president gets a presidential daily brief. It's usually 2 to 6 pages. He's asked for it to be 1 page of bullets. Now, you can criticize that. I can criticize that. But those bullets are what he can consume. One of the greatest lessons I learned briefing the Senate Intelligence Committee here in D.C. was don't tell them too much because they'll just mess it up. That's common for a lot of executives. Trump should be criticized on that. If, again, Trump gives intelligence that harms our national security to the Russians on a U.S. capability, I'll stand with those opposed to what Trump allegedly did and McMaster said he didn't. But this is not that. I keep saying that. Confidence in Trump. Yes, Trump is going to shoot off the hip. He may be considered a loose cannon in what he says and what he tweets, but he has solid people around him. He needs a McMaster. He needs a Mattis to keep him in line. We all agree. But what I'm telling you about McMaster and his statements on this issue is this is a credible man that both Democrats and Republicans will defend. This man is not a yes man. If what he said has to be looked at as fact-based. He said he was in the room, it didn't happen, the story is false. And then he took questions today. I think that's very important. It should restore confidence. McMaster and Mattis will be at that NATO summit. They will be meeting with their counterparts. They will reassure their counterparts. And if Trump started to slip up in this meeting with Lavrov, it was likely McMaster who shot him a look. But if that look took place, it would have been leaked to the Washington Post, and it would have said this: McMaster fumes when Trump divulges classified information to the Russians. That didn't happen.
Okay. The Republicans, let's talk about some of the political reactions on Capitol Hill. They're of 2 minds over this story, with an air of cautious criticism that you sense could be ramped up, could be at a later date.
All I can say is that I've seen other stories in the Washington Post, which is a fine newspaper, about what Comey allegedly asked of Burr, and I didn't buy, that didn't pan out to be true. So I don't know. I don't know if it's accurate, it'd be troubling. I have no idea.
Yeah, that's the Senator Lindsey Graham speaking. And of course, there was that statement by the Senate Majority Leader asking for less drama from the White House. What was your reaction when you saw that, Alex Whiting?
Well, I think that's right. I actually share Michael's view on needing to rely on senior people who are capable and know what they're doing. And of course, it's true that the president can't absorb, volumes and volumes of information. But that's why he should first of all staff up his administration, and secondly trust the people that he has to do their job. But he's unable to do that. He has a temperament that makes him incapable of doing that. So he constantly takes control of the situation, which is what it sounds like happened here in the White House. This was apparently unplanned that he would share this information. He just bulldozed ahead, shared the information, the details just as they came to his mind. And there's been other instances of that where he has jumped in, taken control, made press statements. That's the tweeting, and he has undercut his top officials again and again. And many people thought that he, in fact, undercut McMaster today.
All right, that air of unruliness is felt in other ways. The revelations about Trump and Lavrov overshadowing last week's firing of FBI Director James Comey, raising concerns that the White House was obstructing the probe about ties between the administration and Russia. This is what the White House press briefing looked like on Monday.
I think there's frankly no need for a special prosecutor. We've discussed this before. You have two Senate committees that are looking into this. The FBI is conducting their own review. And I think if you even look at what Acting Director McCabe said last week, he made it very clear that they have the resources that they need and that the work continues.
Is the White House intending to cooperate with those requests and furnish that information as requested in writing?
I think I made it clear last week that the president has nothing further on that. Hunter.
Wait, Sean. Does that mean that the president will deny the
I think
request?
I said I was very clear that the president would have nothing further on that last week.
Describing a situation in which the president would defy the legislative branch's request. That's what you're saying.
Alexis, I made it clear what the president's position is on that issue. Thank you guys very much. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Give us the special prosecutor. He wants to do the right thing. Where are the tapes, Sean?
All right, ending in a bit of it's been Alex Whiting, difficult to make out exactly what the communication line is from the White House at times.
Right, absolutely, it keeps changing. So the routine is to send people out with one story, and when Comey was fired, the president got the deputy attorney general to write a memo, and the initial story was that was the reason, and everybody towed the line, including the vice president, the spokesman Sean Spicer. With it, that story was immediately thought to be incredible and untrue, and it unraveled in 24 hours, and finally the president himself completely undercut the story, and so they cannot get. And they cannot get a single message, but it's more concerning than that. I think it's that they don't seem to think that the truth matters. It's a story that they want to get out.
Except in this case. I mean, great points, but except in this case, and I'll wait, and then I'd like to make a counterpoint.
Okay, well, you just did interject. But
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. In this case, I don't think we know yet what the full story is. Michael, you said that McMaster said the story was false. That's not quite what he said. He said the story is false in some respects, and he said that what the president did was
he said the premise of the article is false.
Correct, but many of the details are obviously true. It's obviously true that he shared information. It seems that he did that. He did that in a bragging way. He did that not pursuant to policy. It was an ad hoc affair. And so all the details of the story are correct. It's just the conclusion or the premise, as General McMaster said.
You're assuming all the details of the story are correct. And
well, they haven't been refuted, Michael. They have not been refuted. McMaster had an opportunity. McMaster had an opportunity to refute all the details of the story. He did not do that.
And he said he stood by his statement yesterday. Here's what he said yesterday, 14 hours ago. The president and the foreign minister reviewed common threats from terrorist organizations to include threats to aviation. There's your intel that he shared, right? We can all agree that that's intelligence information, correct?
Classified information, yeah.
Yeah, intelligence information.
Very highly classified information.
But you don't tell the Russians, hey, this is really highly classified information I'm about to tell you.
No.
You just say, listen, there's a credible threat. So we agree that he shared intelligence. But here is the legal thing. You're a lawyer. Here's the legal thing.
Yeah.
Intelligence is classified information.
Okay, that's fine.
At no time were any intelligence sources or methods discussed, and no military operations were disclosed that were not already known publicly. That's the legal thing. That's why it's so important to say no methods or sources and methods were disclosed, and that's why you're probably on this show because you're a lawyer.
No, Michael,
that's the legal bar.
No, the legal issue here. The legal issue. There isn't a legal issue here because the president.
No, there isn't.
No,
exactly,
but for a different reason, Michael. And
nor is there a crisis.
No, Michael. There's a different reason there's not a legal issue, and that's because the president has the authority to declassify information. So it's not because of whether it was sources or methods. It was because he is the president of the United States.
Unless he doesn't own that information.
But it's not a breach of classified information if the president does it. So that's not the issue. The issue with respect to sources and methods, again, McMaster's statement is very carefully worded. The one that you've just cited.
So you just agreed it's not illegal to share intel and that no sources and methods were revealed.
It's not illegal, but Michael Prugin, it's a question of
it's
a question of trust, as you heard General Trinquant say.
People
that this is going to. General
Trinquant
is saying that this could undermine the trust that French intelligence, that other intelligence services have in the United States. What do you answer to that?
I would say that the trust issue has been there for a while. The Muslim ban was a trust issue. Working with Russia in any regard is a trust issue with a lot of countries. The trust issue has been there from the beginning. This NATO summit is what we're focused on, right? At least several questions have been based on that. That's when NATO counterparts will meet McMaster and Mattis for the first time and be able to gain that confidence, or maybe they haven't even lost it to begin with, to be reassured that U.S. foreign policy and national security is in the right place. We have a media that takes a source. Again, the source and this Washington Post article are more damning than anything that was allegedly said in this meeting. You had a source that could have gone to the Senate Intelligence Committee and said what Trump said in this meeting. Instead, that source chose the Washington Post. There are already ways to whistleblow in the intelligence community when a commander-in-chief is doing something illegal, immoral, or unethical. Okay, in this case, disclosing highly classified information to a geopolitical foe. You don't go to the Washington Post. You go to the Senate Intelligence Committee and the House Intelligence Committee and voice your grievance. This Washington Post piece does more damage.
Okay, but perhaps the most damaging part of that Washington Post article is a detail that, which is that the only journalist in the room was not American. It was the Russian photographer.
Oh, I thought this meeting was without the photographers. You're talking about the pictures, and I think you're conflating the photo op with the actual discussion. Two different things. Now, here's the most damaging piece in the Washington Post article, including McMaster's quote in it, 8 paragraphs down. McMaster's quote derails the story. His press conference today derails the story. But we still have to deal with the perception and the trust issue from allies. And that's key. That's going to be a diplomatic effort. That's going to be a national security effort to reassure allies that everything is okay. That is the real problem.
General Trinquant.
Yeah, we're talking about trust and the NATO summit. There is no doubt that the Allied have great confidence in the people who are surrounding the president. They are former top brass from the U.S. Army with sharing everything with the Allied, and they are really professional. The problem is not there. The problem is in the person of the president and the way he's dealing with intelligence. And that's the problem. And we've got a problem when a president have to be escorted, accompanied all the time by these people who the next day say it's not exactly that, it's a bit different, and it's not the first time it's happened. So this is a real problem. That's why I'm talking about the trust of the intelligence community.
Can it be fixed?
And the U.S. intelligence community.
Can it be fixed?
Absolutely.
Yeah, they will provide less intelligence and less material for the briefing of the president in order that he will discuss about the big case, you know, and not something important.
Martin Quincy, your thoughts on this?
No, I agree that the point is that we will have these extremely competent people around Trump that have been doing already these reassurance campaigns, especially in Europe. We've had General Mattis coming to the Munich Security Conference. We've had Senator McCain, to another extent, came to Brussels and talked to the allies. The problem is a bit like the Kissinger question. When I want to call the Europe, who should I call? Well, today is a bit the same question for the US. When I want to call the US, is it really President Trump that I should call and trust, or are there other people around him that are actually the real partners for European allies? The question of McMaster and Mattis not being credible in the eyes of the allies is non-existent, obviously. But for how long are they going to have to do this kind of reassurance campaign with European allies and NATO to make sure that, as you said, this is fixed?
All right, something we'll be watching over the next 10 days. Martin Quincy, I want to thank you. I want to thank as well General Dominique Trinquant, Alex Whiting, and Michael Pregin for being with us from Washington. Stay with us. Media Watch is next. And we say hello to Haxi Mars-Belkin.
Hi, Francois.
So the trust issue has been a big one in this topic on this panel over the past hour.
Absolutely. So let's start by taking a look at the tweet that did launch thousands of other tweets, unsurprisingly. Trump essentially confirming those reports in the Washington Post that he revealed highly classified intelligence to the Russians. As president, I wanted to share with Russia, which I absolutely have the right to do, facts pertaining to terrorism and air flight safety. Well, does he have that right? If we take a look at this piece in USA Today, their response is yes, but it's risky. In this article, we read that presidents do have the broad authority to disclose even the most sensitive intelligence without having to go through any formal process. That's in stark contrast to every other government employee who would very likely face criminal charges for doing so. Unsurprisingly, Trump's supporters are lying relatively low on this one. But one thing they do seem to be seizing on is that idea of transparency. Yes, he shared intelligence, but at least he's being honest about it. Something, according to this Twitter user, that other government officials hardly do.
Yeah, there's this climate of distrust right now in Washington, isn't there, between obviously the polarization of politics, but also between government services. Something we talked about when we talked about James Comey's firing.
Right. No, I think that's right. I think there is a general climate of distrust. I think that this president has taken it to a new level with respect to the intelligence community and career officials.
Yeah, and for now, the Republicans are sticking with the president. They haven't rallied against him as such.
They haven't, although if we have a look at these tweets, we get a slightly different story. How are we at a point where giving classified info to an enemy is a subject up for debate? Both sides don't do it, and now it's up to the GOP to deal with this. Another tweet. The GOP would rather protect a president who gives Russians classified info than live up to their oaths of office. Retweet if you agree, and we've had, as you can see there, quite a few retweets. Now, if we take a look at what Ana Navarro's been saying, she's a Republican strategist and, of course, as we know, a staunch Trump detractor. She's really been on top of her tweeting game today, referring to the fact that Trump based his presidential bid on denouncing Hillary Clinton's mishandling of classified information. She tweets, if Hillary Clinton leaked classified info to a Russian spook or diplomat, Republicans would be rightly drafting articles of impeachment now, N-O-W. And my personal favourite tweet from her today, a picture of missing spine of most GOP elected leaders should be on the side of milk cartons. Last seen October 2016, abducted by a man wearing a red tie. Republican Senator John McCain, meanwhile, he's published a statement on his website describing Trump's sharing of intelligence derived from a US ally without that ally's knowledge as deeply disturbing. That's mainly because it, quote, will impair other countries' willingness to share intelligence with us in the future.
Yeah, no, McCain has never been a great fan of Donald Trump. Haxi, once again, we're talking about Trump's relationship with Russia.
Absolutely, we are. And, oh, here we go. The interesting thing here, of course, being that Trump's relationship with Russia now bears quite a few similarities to the allegations Trump was levelling at Hillary Clinton during his presidential campaign. And if we take a look here, Twitter has been doing what it does best and has dragged up some tweets by some GOP grandees that they'll probably be regretting right about now. On the 7th of July last year, House Speaker Paul Ryan tweeted, referring to Hillary Clinton, of course, that individuals who are extremely careless with classified information should be denied further access to such information. And there was also a tweet from that same time from Reince Priebus, the White House Chief of Staff. Those who mishandled classified info have had their security clearances revoked, lost their jobs, faced fines, and even been sent to prison. So I think they'll probably be regretting those tweets right about now.
All right, well, we'll watch how this develops. Haxi Myers-Belkin, I want to thank you. I want to thank our panel once again. Thank you for joining us here in the France 24 debate.